Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Fathoms Deep, a Black Sails podcast. From Common Room Radio, I'm Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
Daphne, what did you do this week?
Oh my God.
You lovely spoiled brat that I hate and also adore and want to be right now.
I was a bit spoiled yesterday.
Weren't you?
I was. I went up to New York for New York Comic Con. And it ended up being way more fun and special experience than I had planned on because...
Yeah. Sorry, no. Can you feel like I'm sorry. Is the envy dripping through the microphone over the ether nets? I don't understand how the internet works, but anyway.
But envy travels.
But envy travels is all I'm saying.
Oh, sweetie.
Go ahead. I won't spoil it. So you tell us. You tell your story.
I'll tell my story. Oh, I wanted you to be there so much.
It's okay.
As did all of they want you to be there.
So,
okay. So I went to New York Comic Con. I was supposed to, the plan was for me to well, I got a press pass. Stars was very sweet,
right.
And they gave me a press pass that was for these roundtables that they do for press people, where you have a bunch of press people and an actor or two. If you go on YouTube, you can see lots of them. And so, and this was all very last minute. So I got that, and then I had to contact Comic-Con and ask them for a press pass because I was supposed to be in the Stars thing, and that all worked out. So I went to New York, and they were lovely. In short, they were lovely. I had been in contact with Jonathan Steinberg because I asked him to be on our podcast, and he said yes.
Woo! Insanity. And he said yes.
And he said yes.
What is happening? I'm so thrilled.
Our lives are a little crazy and wonderful. So
wonderful indeed.
So we were going to try to meet before I was at these tables because I know what they all look like, but they don't know what I look like.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So I had thought to do that at the autograph signing thing, but then I saw that it was full. And so he arranged to meet me in it's the Javits Center, which anyone's not been to New York. I've been to the Javits Center a million times because that's where I go for my wholesale shows to sell my jewelry. It was a very different experience. So they met me, and first I met the three creators, the showrunners, writers, producers. So that's Jonathan Steinberg and Robert Levine and Dan Schatz, and they were lovely.
Wow.
And they like our podcast, which is really just like, first of all, they're listening to our podcast.
Amazing.
So that's pretty nuts.
I'm going to choose not to think about that.
I know. I'm going to have to be in a lot of denial after this.
And I'm going to push it to the back of my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, you and I are going to have to like create some ritual for like forgetting everything that I'm about to say. Before
I think that ritual is called Scotch, Daphne.
But we were using that already, so I'm just not really sure what to add to that.
More Scotch.
Cheers. I'm drinking right now.
Cheers. Me too. The last little bit from your visit in town. Then I'll be switching back to wine for a bit, I'm sure.
Which will also work. And they were very cute. I think they're going to listen maybe to other Common Room Radio podcast now, like they wanted to know all about you. And I told them our story.
Fun.
I told them our story about how we met and about Story Walk, drink, as if we weren't already. And and yeah, they were just lovely, and they brought me down to I guess it's called a green room. I think that's what he's called it. They took me to a room where all of the actors and people who had come with them were just hanging out eating, and we walked in and they introduced me.
That's a green room, all right. Yep.
They introduced me to all of the actors, and they were all lovely.
I'm sure they were.
Yeah, and so...
Gosh.
So Luke Arnold has been listening to our podcast. And so we talked about that a little bit and talked about and talked a little bit about silver. And he showed me his if you go on his Instagram, you can see his awesome new gold skull ring, which he said
the ring is so cool.
So he said he was into that because
the ring's really cool
because it matched the new the artwork for
that's right
which
for
is
season 4.
Adorable.
Yeah. Speaking of adorable, the new haircut for Luke is really doing it for me. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, let's drink. And
also, you got to touch him, which is insane. And I'm going to spoil something really quick. She sends me a message. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm sitting next to Tom Hopper," and I was like, "Touch his arms." She's like, "No, I'm not going to touch his arms." I would have.
Yeah,
this is why you didn't take me.
Yes,
I'm kidding.
By the way, Tom just said he's going to start listening to our podcast, Liz. So there's that.
Oh, well, I don't objectify anyone. I am an upstanding citizen of moral integrity.
Well, one of the more adorable moments actually that I did want to talk about was when I was chatting with Luke and he called Tom over to introduce him to me, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, you're the one doing the podcast. I haven't listened to it yet." And then Luke and I both started cracking up because I was like, "My podcasting partner is awesome. She also was kind of has a thing about bathing Billy."
Guilty as charged.
Yes, you are definitely guilty. That was one of my favorite moments. Today, Lainey asked me what my favorite moment was, and I almost chose that one, but we'll get to my favorite moment soon. Yeah,
I should probably be embarrassed, but I'm not. That's okay.
It's
a Billy Bones thing. It's not a Tom Hopper thing.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I do differentiate between my.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's how that is how I explained it, that you have this urge to bathe Billy Bones.
Billy Bones, yes. Yeah, very different thing.
So then I met also Hannah and Jessica and Clara, and yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's mostly, I mean, the funny thing is I did actually admit at some point to the actors that like I was excited to meet them, but the people I was really nervous to meet were the writers.
See, and that completely makes sense to me, actually. That makes complete sense to me. And I kind of feel the same way, honestly. The same with, whomever we end up having on the show. The ones that'll make me nervous will be the writers because, I mean, I can just chat and flirt with anybody. That's fine. But to actually, try to sound intelligent and insightful is... I like when that happens accidentally, just naturally as we're talking. But to know that that's expected of me for an hour and a half is a little bit daunting. We're just going to not think about that for right now.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just going to talk about Comic-Con.
Yes, exactly. So, but I did. I mean, pretty much like, I think I've been pretty clear that Black Sails is my favorite story ever. And
it's such an extraordinary
story.
Yeah.
I not only got to meet the people who made my favorite story ever, but I got to tell them that. Like, I got to just say to them, guys,
wow, yeah,
this is my favorite story ever. Like, I just chose to not be, I just said what I feel, which is that I love it.
That's so good. And good for you. Brave soul.
So that was fantastic. And you know what? You know what was really beautiful, and this will come up a few times. I did write some notes now about stuff, but the thing that has been really just so beautiful in any interactions that we've had with the people making shows, like the actors seem to love this show as much as we do, and I felt like that just shone through every conversation I had with them, everything that they did officially in the press room and in the panel, and I just feel like it really does, it all just comes through. It just seems like this show is just made with so much intelligence and such amazing talent, but with also so much love. And I really,
so much affection.
I just really felt that all the time from them.
Yeah. When you're working on something that you know is great and that you know is meaningful, you get such a sense of pride and community and like family of just building something great. And it does. You're right. It shines through. Even in their silly little things that they do, reading tweets or answering the silly questions, it's still, you're right. It shines through this pride that they have in the show.
Yeah. So that was really I don't know. Just, yeah, pretty much all of it was just fantastic. They were all so...
I've already drained the scotch, so I apologize in advance to everyone for my wild enthusiasm to follow.
It's going to be a good night. So, yeah, So, yeah, they were just all so sweet. Like, everyone wanted to listen to the podcast. Everyone was curious about our story.
That is so insane and lovely. Yeah.
I got to talk to Jonathan Steinberg for a while about stuff. I told him about our thesis statement game, which he was very amused by.
Oh, I'm sure he was. We're the nerdiest girls ever. That's amazing. Until you say it out loud.
Clearly he hasn't listened to all of the podcasts because he wasn't aware of that. But he loved the thesis statement game. He was very...
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is also a huge Hamilton fan, so we talked about that.
Hamil sales. All right.
Yes,
that's great.
Yes. So, yeah, everyone, I guess now I'll announce that at some point we're going to announce that we're going to create some game where we're doing some sort of Twitter mashup of Hamilton and Black Sails and, you know.
Yep.
So you might as well just start preparing.
Hashtag Hamil sales. Get ready.
Yep. Exactly. Start preparing.
You know what to do, Twitter.
I haven't really, but in the back of my mind, I am all the time preparing for that. So we will have some crazy day of Hamil sales or crazy week of Hamil sales. So that was just all really fun. I don't know. They're lovely. They're just all very lovely. And they were so gracious and sweet. And this is just the beginning of my story.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
So then I got to see parts of the Javits Center I've never seen. Again, I've been doing shows there for like 15 years, and I got to see all like the back parts because that's how they took everyone. That's how they took them from place to place. So they weren't actually walking out into the middle of
wings.
Right. Exactly. So we went through some back way and an elevator and like trolley thing to get to the staging area behind where the autograph signing was going to be, and that's where the pictures that I tweeted, that's where we took those pictures. Oh, and I had forgotten to say in the first place we were in the green room, that's when everyone was being sad that you couldn't have been there, that you couldn't come. Everyone said like, where is Liz? Why isn't Liz here? And I had to explain that we live in very different places and that it was hard to get to New York quickly from Oklahoma City.
Yeah, it was really last minute. So maybe if I'd had a couple of months notice, I might have been able to scrape something together. But it was like, 11 days or something?
Yeah,
it was very quick when we realized that this was even happening.
Yeah, it was very quick. So that's when I brought out, I had brought in hopes of getting this done at the autograph signing I brought a canvas wall hanging with a tall ship.
Oh, it's canvas too?
It's canvas.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. My whole master suite now, which is only my master suite, which is pretty damn fantastic, if I can just say, is going to be tall ships now. That's just what I'm doing. Tall ships master bedroom.
So I brought it out, and they were all really happy to sign it for you. So Liz gets a beautiful wall hanging with signatures from the showrunners and the actors.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was super, super sweet of them. So then we went to the autograph signing. So I basically just stood on the side while they were doing that. I think this is when the jokes of me being part of the entourage has started. So I was like, yes, I am entourage.
Embrace it.
Yep. I was, my attitude was like, I will just walk around Comic-Con with y'all as long as you all let me do that. It was great.
Oh my gosh.
So they did the autograph signing.
Daphne. That's so exciting.
It was really fun. And
and you're welcome for me forcing you to do this podcast.
I know. Seriously, Liz. Seriously. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Again, I think I just tweeted this. Like, not everyone gets the opportunity to meet the people who make their favorite thing and say, "Hey, you made my favorite thing. Thank you." And I got to do that yesterday. It's pretty incredible. I think I've said that twice now on the podcast. Probably going to say that again.
Okay.
Probably because
it's
still
incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just. That's a really wonderful thing to be able to do in your life.
Yeah. Well, and even though I wasn't there, and it ended up that my daughter had somewhat emergency surgery, although minor. It sounds like everyone should get frantic when you say emergency surgery. I just mean it had to happen quickly. Everything was fine. It was minor surgery. A cyst getting removed from her ear. However, it was nervous mama time in the waiting room for a good 2 hours or so, and really seeing just like everything that was happening at Comic-Con and the tweets coming through and you messaging me helped make that experience just bearable, which was great. So
I'm so
I felt
glad.
like I got to be with you in spirit, even if in body I was in a children's hospital waiting room. So
Oh, baby.
it's okay.
You were definitely there
All
in
is
spirit.
well.
You were there in spirit, and yes, everyone there was thinking about you. So that was the point when Lauren Sarner joined us, so that made it even more fun. I got to hang out with Lauren, and after that signing, then we went upstairs to the thing I was originally supposed to do. There was another staging room.
And that was the round table thing, right?
And that was the round table thing. And so we went to the staging room for that and more, just like chit chat, whatever, hanging out with them, hanging out with Lauren. And then I did go to the round table thing, and I didn't end up asking many questions. I listened to the recording now because it's all a bit of a blur for me. I did listen to the recording now.
I bet. Yeah.
I did actually ask one question. So we'll get to that in a little bit.
You poor thing. You fretted over what questions to ask for
I
weeks.
know, I did. I worked so hard on those questions. But everyone.
That's all right.
But everyone, we will be able to use those questions. I can't say anything specific yet, but there has been talk about some of the actors coming on Fathoms Deep. So we're just going to save those questions.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Liz and I are going to incorporate them into actual podcasts that we're going to do with the actors.
So exciting. Yeah.
So, yes. So we'll make announcements once things, once we make sure for real that our schedules are aligned and everything will work out. But it seems like we are going to have some of the actors on. So that's going to be a huge treat.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Again, I feel like pinching myself all the time is what's going on. So I went to the thing, and I ended up at my table sitting in the chair next to the actors. So that was kind of fun because they were, partly they were like, wait, what are you doing here now? And I was like, this is what I was supposed to come do. Somehow I got this bonus of all this other stuff.
That's adorable.
It was all, there was a lot of moments where I was just like, this is just surreal. But you know what? They're really they're very lovely people. They're very lovely people. And
I know.
I don't know what else to say about it.
You're so adorable.
It was really nice.
Yeah, your blush is coming to the airwaves, I think.
So I did record, and we are going to play closer to the end the recordings, both from the round table and also from I did get permission to play the whole recording of the panel, not the clip. They did show.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's great.
So at the end of this podcast, I'm just going to edit that on to that bit. So everyone will get to listen to the panel. The audio quality is pretty good. Like, you hear almost everything well.
Thank you, Daphne. That's awesome.
I'm so excited that it worked out. I was really worried about the audio quality because it was a really big room. But
of course. Yeah, that's a crapshoot for sure.
Yeah, but it's really totally, most of it worked, is very understandable. Not our usual audio quality, obviously, but still quite good. So that'll be great. But I'll finish continuing with the story. So I was there for part of the round table. At some point I left. I was there with Tom Hopper, Jessica Parker Kennedy, Hannah New, and Clara Paget. And then I needed to go get some coffee, honestly. So I ended up back in the staging room, and
fair.
But then I had met down in the autograph part. I had met one of the directors, and I hope I'm getting his name. His name is Lucas, and I hope Etlin is right. He may be on our podcast at some point too, which will be so awesome because in addition to being the director for season 2, episode 9, he is the man who killed Miranda. Okay, actually, Dan Schatz, I understand. He told me Dan Schatz is the man who killed Miranda because he wrote it.
Okay, because he wrote it. Yeah.
But Lucas Etlin is the one who made it so perfect.
Had the blood splatter across Flint's face.
And just like the abruptness.
Wow.
That's what I was like, dude.
And the abruptness.
Yeah, I was like, dude, that was the worst thing ever, and it was so perfect because you
It was.
That was just way too
That was a
abrupt.
great-
I
well,
can't
that's
believe
the
you did
episode
that
with
to
the
us.
ticking clock that everybody
Yep.
loves so much. That was a really brilliant episode.
I know. I brought that up with him. I was like, that was so cool. Had you had their reflection in the clock? And he was like, that's so cool that you noticed that. And I was like,
Of course, we notice all the things.
I know. I was like, you don't really understand how many times and how closely I look at your show. So it turns he also for people who are not on first time watches with the podcast, he also did the Storm episode from season 3. Yeah.
That's another great one.
Yes.
That's what I'm interested to talk to the actors about, because I bet that was a challenge to film, to say the very least. Yeah.
Well, if we're lucky, we'll get to talk to the director too. And yes,
my gosh.
I did
Wow.
talk. I did. Yeah. So I ended up not going back to the roundtables because I ended up just chatting with him because he's lovely. He also, he also explained that he was, I think he called it the producing director. He basically was in South Africa all the time. And when they would have different directors for different episodes, but he said that in a situation when a director kind of ran out of time on an episode, he would end up filming stuff. So another amazing scene that he did, that again, for people who've seen season 3, he did the carriage scene. He did. I know.
Oh,
exactly. So he was, again, I will make him talk about all of this again on the podcast if he comes on, but he explained how they shot that, which is really such a spectacular scene. And
wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
He's pretty neat. He's a pretty neat guy.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope he sees.
I love this about you and I, that we really are geeking out as much about the writers and directors as the actors.
Yes.
That's neat.
Yes. No, he's lovely. And yeah, he likes podcasts. Hopefully he'll start listening to ours. I gave him our card.
Sign on up. Yeah.
And he also directed the first episode of season 4.
Oh, well, it was already something to look forward to, but now I'm definitely excited.
Right. Now
That's
you know what he does. Yeah.
It's going to be epic. Oh, so I'm so excited.
I did see the first 15 minutes because they did that in the panel, and I'm not allowed to talk about it, but it is all I can say is damn.
Oh,
it's so good. It's so good.
I'm so excited. Okay. I haven't even watched the trailer for season 4 because
good.
I really do like to enter in just not knowing anything. I really like to watch things unfold. So we'll see. I might give in. I might buckle one night and watch the trailer. We'll see.
I don't know what to tell you. The trailer, but there's 2 now, and they're both beautiful. And this 15 minutes of the first episode blew me away. So
wow,
there's that.
Yeah, I've seen stills from the trailer, but that's all so far. We'll see.
So that's what I did, and then it was time to go to the panel. And then just a funny, not Black Sails weird thing is that I forgot my phone, and I had to go back up to the press staging area, and I was in
Oh no.
I know. I was in an elevator with Isabel Rossellini.
What?
I meant to look up before we podcasted what project she's doing right now, but
oh my gosh.
I didn't talk to her. She was in a conversation. It's one of those big freight elevators, but I was standing right next to her.
Wow.
Yeah, that's that.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
there's a day. Sure.
Yep. That was crazy.
Happens to me all the time when I forget my phone.
Yeah. It does mean that I was a few minutes late for the panel. I think I don't quite understand. I think that they Skyped with Toby Schmitz right in the beginning.
I did see about that on Twitter. That he had Skyped in.
But they did. But then, I don't know. Clara was describing him on Skype later on, so I thought that was it. But I think there was actually.
Where's Clara from?
She's from England.
She's okay. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I was just curious. I know they're all from all over.
Yes. So Luke and Toby Schmitz are from Australia. Clara, Hannah from England. Also Toby
and
Stevens and Toby and Tom.
Right.
Yep. Tom's from Leicester.
He's got his accent is so fun.
But it's not Leicester. So my business partner in my store, she is from Leicester, and when she started watching
I didn't realize.
Yeah, when she started watching Black Sails, she was like, he doesn't sound like he's from Leicester. And so I asked him, I was like, Tom, are you really from Leicester? Because my best friend's from Leicester, and she says you don't sound like it. And he's like, I worked really hard to get rid of my Leicester accent.
I was going to say, I'm sure he did. Yeah. Well, people tell me that all the time. They're like, you don't sound like you're from Oklahoma. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
however many years of training in the theater will do that to you.
So that was just kind of adorable. He and through me, they exchanged what part of Leicester they're from. And said hi to each other.
That's adorable.
Yeah, they're all adorable. Can I just say, Hannah is just so warm and sweet, and yeah. Well,
oh, really?
I mean, I'm not saying nothing
so
like
not
Eleanor,
that makes me really happy.
Yeah,
not like Eleanor.
No,
that's
she's
great.
she's downright bubbly and adorable, and
really?
yeah, and Clara's pretty badass. I mean, she's also very sweet, but she's not Anne Bonny, but she's really, yeah. I was a little shy around her because I was feeling like she's way too cool.
You can't sit with us.
No, and yet she was so nice to me, so I had no reason for being that way.
That's
and
awesome.
and so I have to tell you the Jessica story.
Okay.
So yeah, this was my favorite thing, was that I was talking to Jessica when we were walking towards, walking towards one of the things. I think it was walking towards the elevator for the panel, and we were just talking about
Did you ask her if she would be our girlfriend?
I did not. I resisted the urge.
Damn it, Daphne. What did I send you there for?
Not to flirt, and I didn't do that. That's your job.
I know. It was my job. I couldn't be there. That's all right.
She's lovely and very sweet. Oh,
Yeah.
and from Canada, since we were doing Where People Are From, she's from Canada.
Oh, Canada. Okay.
Yep. So I was telling her something about the podcast. I don't remember what. I think I was just describing the tone of the podcast to her. And then I said to her that she has not listened to the podcast, but she seemed pretty excited about it. And so I was like, yeah, if you listen, you'll hear how much we love Max. I was just like, we love Max a lot. And then, and so I was kind of describing the tone of the podcast, and I said, and for whatever reason, I decided to tell her the story. I said, yeah, we have, sometimes we have these funny hashtags that come up, and I was like, oh yeah, we have like those celebrity combo names. I was like, Liz made one of those for Max and Jack and Anne, and she asked me what it was.
Oh no.
And I said, Liz, she loved it. I was like, Gen X, and she was so amused.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
But yes, she's very adorable. She's really, really, really quite adorable. I feel like I've used that word way too many times. I liked them a lot. It was really nice. It was just really nice to meet them, and
I'll bet.
And they were all just very sweet. And it's, it's a crazy 2 days. That was just, overall, that was just really nice of them. They had this really packed and harried schedule for 2 days of press stuff. And
yeah, I'm sure they did. And all flying in from who knows where.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they totally didn't have to just include me in all of this. And they did. And that was really nice. And I really enjoyed it.
That's really extraordinary. That's really extraordinary. What a great show.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of this show, as though I have a thing to do. I just mean that it just makes me... I get all glowy and happy. I don't know.
Yeah,
anyway,
well,
keep
you know
talking,
what?
Daphne.
It's one thing to love a thing and to have it be perfect, which, I think Black Sails is pretty darn close to perfect. But to know that the people who make it are so sweet and nice, and and again, they care so much. They were so appreciated, that the way we talk about it. Luke said that he liked that we talked about the characters like real people, and I said, well, it's because we love stories. that's how we see them. Like that we,
it was work for me to learn the actor names because
right,
I was
exactly,
so engrossed in the characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he said that he really appreciated it. And I said it's because we love stories and they are the people in the story, and that's what we're talking about. Yeah. And he said, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Like, it was just really nice. Like, I heard that a bunch of times that they felt like the way we were talking about the show was the way that they were hoping someone would talk about the show.
Oh, wow. Well, that means a lot.
Doesn't it?
That's really great.
Yeah, that really, because we've worked so hard on trying to really represent, just really talk honestly and deeply about the show and put a lot of energy into it. And we care a lot about it. So it's just, I don't know, it was just really wonderful. Obviously they care about it. It's something they've been doing for many years, but again, like I said before, like you just feel like it just wasn't just like a job they were doing, like they really, really cared about this show and about how this show is represented and its longevity and, and how it's perceived in the world. And I just kept saying, well, I basically, I love it more than anything. So that's my feedback for you. I love it enough to podcast about it.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's most of my stories. Again, we'll hope that people come on the podcast so that we can share hanging out with these awesome people with our listeners. And, and hang out with them also for ourselves, because that would be great.
Yeah. That'd be all right.
That would be fun, too. Okay, so should I talk about some highlights from the actual, press stuff?
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll go back now to the roundtables. I have audio from the table. Most of it's not my questions. But
that's okay.
But yeah, so what I thought I would do here is I will talk about the highlights, and then we can alternate between us and sound bites that I will put in from the actors. And the sound there is really quite bad because it's all these tables in one relatively small. So you can actually, when you hear Tom, you can totally hear Jessica at the same time, and she's at a different table. But
I see. Yeah.
But there was some fun stuff. All right. So before I really start, I need to say from here on, when I'm going to be talking about and playing recordings, there will be spoilers for season 3. They're obviously not spoiling season 4, but they are all freely talking about season 3 because,
it aired already. Yeah,
exactly. So,
fair enough.
So any of our listeners who have been following along on their first watch and have not watched season 3 and don't want to be spoiled, there is one thing in particular that's really big, and once it's spoiled, it's spoiled.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you, and they all talk about it. So if you don't want to, then now would be a good time to stop and then listen.
Come back later.
Yes.
It'll
listen
be
to
here for you later.
Exactly.
Yep.
Listen to the rest of
a special
this
treat for yourself. Delayed gratification.
Exactly. But so I'm now, from this point on, I'm going to talk about the interviews and the panel and not guard y'all from spoilers. That's it. You had your warning. Okay. So the first person at my table was Tom. And yes, just so everyone understands, I believe this will end up on video, possibly on YouTube, because somebody was videotaping the table and I'm sitting right next to him when Liz texted me saying, touch his arm, and I laughed. So, Tom.
Sorry, Tom. I was only kidding.
Yeah, seriously,
I believe
Tom.
in personal boundaries.
Yes,
I really do.
Yes, she does. She does, actually. Tom, if you are listening, if you get this far in the podcast, he said he's going to start immediately listening to the beginning of the podcast. If you get this far, I apologize. It's Liz's fault that I started laughing in the middle of what you were saying.
My bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
No, I really like Tom. He's really sweet and earnest and dear, and I liked him a lot. So
earnest, that's a good word.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, he's actually he's a tad bit Billy-like.
Well,
that's how he seemed to me. I don't know. Maybe he was on special Billy behavior for the press. I don't know. So, okay, he said, and this relates to season 3, that Billy, at the end of season 3, Billy was kind of making a shift to seeing himself possibly as a potential leader. And that up until that point, he had always seen himself as an asset to other leaders. Mm-hmm. And that in season 4, we'll see him get a little bit more aggressive protecting his men. So that's interesting.
Aggressive.
And then
that is interesting.
Isn't that interesting? And then in relation to Treasure Island, I really love this. So he said that he had read Treasure Island and that his goal in season 1 was to take Billy Bones as far away from his Treasure Island persona as possible to make the greatest arc. So essentially like what we've been talking about with Silver is something that Tom's been very deliberately doing with Billy as well. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we haven't really...
It sure does.
Right? I mean, we know what he's like. He's not in Treasure Island for very long, but we know what he's like there. And it's certainly not our Billy Bones.
No.
So that was neat. And then he said that in season 4, they've made big changes in Billy's character going kind of faster towards Treasure Island. And this is what I heard a few times, but I really liked how he worded it. They said at the end of season 4, all of the characters end up in a place where you can totally see the Treasure Island version in the horizon. Like they don't take us up to Treasure Island, but it will.
Poor Billy.
But I know, seriously, right. Doom. I feel like that's all they were. The like undercurrent of message was doom. You know, not that this.
Not
that this is surprising. We know.
Right. Still.
I think for me, for playing the character, I think it's the journey that he's been on. That we've all been on, really, as characters. But what I love about making the show is wondering what the writers have in store for your character for the next season, because you know you're always going to be taken on quite a journey and you're going to go through a lot through that season. And almost knowing that there's going to be something that has dramatically changed your character by the end of it. And the big thing about this at the minute of season 4 is that you look at the Billy at the end of season 4 and then you look at the Billy at the start of season 1. They're two very different people. And that's how this world has changed him, how the people around him have changed him, how just living on a ship, being a pirate, the pirate world, has affected him. And that's, as an actor, that's a gift to be able to get that kind of an arc, you know, and I feel very privileged to have played that character. I think obviously when he got captured by the English, right, and he was tortured and stuff, and I think that opened his eyes to the world, and I think when new challenges come along with the captaincy, when he's looking at Flint as an ally, and then maybe looking at him now as he's not the right man for the job, and maybe he's starting to feel that he could be a leader. He's starting to feel that he could be someone to take the revolution further. When he sees Vane's death, he's thinking maybe I'm the guy to take this further. And going through season 4, you see that he's someone that can be a leader. But the thing is with Billy, he's not a selfish person. You know, he feels very strongly about his men, the men around him. You know, and he wants to do what's best for them. So that can sometimes now, because he's got this newfound strength to be a leader, that can actually end up biting him in the arse. He's always felt that he needs Flint, I think. I think he always felt like Flint is a necessity in his world to take it further. And then he has Silver, who has come along, and he thinks that this guy is someone to take it further. And also Vane, he's always had people around him that he feels he can help. He's an asset to them. He can make their life easier, you know, whatever it is they want to do, whether it's in battle, whether it's out at sea, he can make their lives easier. But the one thing that's always been solid with Billy is the men around him and how he cares about them. So when it comes down to making decisions for them, he's absolutely aggressive. He will be aggressively protective of those men and what he thinks is best for them. So if it comes down to it about making a decision that has his men's interests at heart, then he'll be super aggressive, absolutely. He's super loyal, yeah. And I think he feels at times that Flint doesn't have his men's best interests at heart. He has his own plan. And at times he thought that Flint's plan was a plan that was best for all his men. But as soon as he feels that that's not the case anymore, as soon as he feels that it's for his own values, then he's not going to be happy about it. So I'd read Treasure Island before, yeah, and for me it was quite interesting to sort of go, okay, how can I make this character the complete opposite of this guy in this book? How do I make him have this journey to become this guy at the end? So it was quite an interesting journey for me to kind of turn him into something that was very opposite to him. I really wanted to see a big turn in him, I think, this season, because I really wanted to see that turn towards Treasure Island. And what's great about the end of the show is that you can see how all our characters end up where we do in Treasure Island. It's not like the finished product. It's not like, oh, that is the guy in Treasure Island. It's like, oh, I totally see how he would end up being like that guy. In terms of rounding off the story for Billy Bones in this Black Sails saga, I think it rounds it off, and I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out.
Okay, so next we had Jessica, and I got to sit next to her for a while. I know.
Yeah.
So she said that she had really looked to try to find any research that would help her inform her role of a woman of color living in that time and being so powerful suddenly. And she was like, yeah, that didn't really happen. Somebody asked her about Max's characteristics, and she talked about her being so smart and capable. And she said that she felt like Max's trajectory, that she was always going to be successful, because she's so canny and so fast on her feet and so smart, but that she felt like the breakup really pushed her to kind of go there faster. And then one of my favorite things is also a season 3 thing, is that somebody asked about her backstory that they gave her in season 3, which is one of my favorite scenes. And she said that she had come up with her own backstory, and it wasn't that.
Oh.
And that when they gave her the backstory that the writers wrote, she loved it. And she said it was just a pleasure to perform it. And it's always, So that was lovely. So now we'll play.
That is lovely.
So now we'll play some of that bit of the interview.
Yeah, I think what's really brilliant about the writers on Black Sails is that they've written not only one really great female character, they've written many great, complicated female characters who have their strengths and have their weaknesses. I feel very privileged to be a woman of color, on the show. And it's so interesting because I grew up in Canada in a very white community. I grew up without my dad. My mom's white. So it's funny because I didn't really identify with like any race growing up really. And it's only since I've come to America that I've had people refer to me like, oh, this actress of color, which is sort of like, I feel very... I felt privileged to be included in that demographic, if that makes sense, because it wasn't something I really felt I was a part of when I was growing up, because I just didn't identify with anything. So it's great, but because I feel really privileged, and then it reminds me, oh my God, I have a responsibility here. And yeah, all I can say is that I'm really proud and privileged to be representing a demographic on the show. How great it is to have a strong female character who's also a character of color on a show that I really respect and love, and that I think is, the women on our show ironically struggle with things, in the 1700s the women are still weirdly struggling with that we shouldn't have to be. So I just think it's important. I love that there are so many great, strong female characters on the show that, like I said, are as flawed as they are strong as well. They're just really real, and I'm proud to be playing a real woman who is smart. I did look for that and couldn't really find a lot. I'm an actor that I like to kind of work from an emotional standpoint instead of working too much from a research standpoint, unless there's something that I feel like really, really, really imperative. And Max is incredibly cerebral in a lot of ways, but I think she's really emotion-based too. I think when her breakup with Eleanor happened, that's kind of when she closed off a lot of those emotions and kind of put up that wall and said, okay, I want to be I'm just going to fill that hole in my heart with like work and moving forward and becoming successful. And it's still really to be decided if that's for better, for better or worse. We are uniquely ourselves. There is nothing like Black Sails on television. We wonderfully get compared to Game of Thrones a lot, but at the same time, like, that's fantasy and we're more based in like historical fiction. I just think what's cool about it is it's a show for most ages, not kids obviously, but you know, when I say all ages, I'm not including the children in that. It's a show that women can watch and enjoy. It's a show that men can watch and enjoy. And it's gritty. Clara Paget said the coolest thing earlier. She was like, you can kind of like smell the pirates through the TV. So there's something really raw and real about it that I think is kind of missing, and not missing, but just that is represented in Black Sails in a way that you maybe can't quite get with other TV shows. So it's totally unique. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think Max is, you know, one of those characters who just is witty and smart and pays attention, hears things, sees things without people realizing that she's doing all those things, you know? So I think she would always have been successful no matter what. I think it was her breakup with Eleanor that really pushed her to another level, because there was a little bit of like, I'm going to do good for me, but I'm also going to like show this bitch and surpass her, you know?
You think without that Eleanor breakup that development wouldn't have ever happened? Because it's almost like a little bird being pushed out of the nest, that you were forced to struggle to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was a time, you know, someone had to take over for Eleanor. I think there was absolutely a possibility of it, but it's like saying, you know, had I not, you know, it's like in life, you have something really dramatic and important that happens to you, and it could have been different. I think she would have been successful no matter what, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say whether what everything that happened in the show, if that would have happened the same way, you know. But I think that was a big motivator for her. But no matter what, I don't think she would have stayed a prostitute at the brothel. You know, I think that she was always going to grow bigger, do more, be successful. I kind of made up my own, you know, personal backstory with her, and I had talked to our creators, John and Dan, about it. We came to we sort of settled on, oh yeah, that's going to work really, really well. And then I read the script and I was like, oh, this is very different. Okay, than what I thought, but I loved it so much more. It's really, really great, and I read that scene and I thought it was extraordinary. And filming that scene was actually the easiest scene to memorize, the easiest scene to film, because it just felt natural. And I think when something goes in your head and is easily said like that, it means like it's written exactly how it was supposed to be. So it's beautiful and heartbreaking, and it's just really special. Really nice meeting you guys. Thanks so much. No, you're so welcome. See you later. Bye. Enjoy. Was this for me when she dropped it off? Okay, I'm going to take that then. All right. No.
And next, we had Clara. Clara came and sat with us, and she talked about the scene where she killed Charlotte and Logan. And I meant to tell her afterwards, I meant to say, wow, Liz and I talked about that scene so much, and we kind of disagreed.
At length.
And it's interesting, I feel like in a way she kind of like split the difference. Like, she said that what she saw was that she was in some sort of like dream state. So it wasn't quite deliberate and wasn't quite, you know, what I'm kind of the PTSD that I had said, like, so that she saw her in this like kind of weird dream state. And I'm going to play it. She's going to say it much better than me. She said it really well. It was very interesting. And then I did actually ask her a question, because one of the other interviewers asked her something she couldn't really answer about season 4. So I jumped in. Yeah. I jumped in and I was like, not even one of our prepared questions. I asked her about, you know, what Toby Schmitz had told Lauren to tell us about the three of them, of the Ranger crew, having made a backstory. And you'll just have to listen. Everyone will just have to listen to what she said. It's very adorable.
Oh, so exciting. Come sip scotch with us. Porch Club with us, Clara.
I know, seriously.
Sarah Paget. How are you guys?
I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, really good.
You know what? I don't recognize you without the red hair.
Nobody does. It's my little incognito show. Yeah. Hey. It's an incredible experience. I'm so grateful to be given the experience as an actress to develop a character, which is why it's so amazing to do a series, because you can have this growth of Bonnie, and amazing seeing her change and go through all these different emotions, and kind of, as you say, at first she's like just a henchman almost, and then she gets kicked off the crew, and I think she experiences all this self-hate and doubt, and she goes into like a dreamlike state. I think when she kills Charlotte and Logan, she kind of goes into like a Lynch-esque type, like she doesn't know what's going on. A dreamscape is almost how I did it in my head. And that was quite a harrowing experience to put her through that. You know, I was really like feeling for this person who was me. And then I was just so happy that when she came back from that, and she just came back to the badass Bonnie, or more badass than ever, you know, and strong and independent, and she could hold her own. She's kind of the glue holding it together now, you know, because she's less emotional in a way than Rackham. And I think, you know, it hits her really hard because that was her captain. At the same time, I think she needs to, she's the tough one, you know, and she's going to pull through and hold the boys together in a way. There's a lot of gaps to be filled, I think, with Vane, but he incited this revolution, you know, that was a part of his speech at the end, saying, don't let yourselves fall apart. Let's keep this thing going, you know. Let's beat the redcoats. I read all kinds of books and all the information that I could gather, mainly, you know, the history of pirates, which is, I suppose, the most factual, but I'm funny when I say that because nothing is really facts when it comes to that, especially with Anne Bonny, and I'm really glad that I found that out as well, and I wasn't kind of lying or making these things up with the history, which is great because it gave me a lot of artistic license to wanting to be true to the feeling of Anne Bonny without making anything up, you know.
My little question is that we heard from Toby Schmitz through Lauren that the three of you, that you and Zach and Toby, had kind of come up with your story that predates the actual show. So I wanted to know if you remembered any details about that, of Anne's part of the story of the Ranger crew.
Between us, we've come up with all sorts of different stories because we're a real crew offset as well. So the three of us were like the Ranger crew, and we still speak to each other as the Ranger crew since day one. You know.
Sorry, guys, we're wrapping.
Very close. So we're always riffing and making up stories behind the scenes because we always just sit on the balcony and have rum and come up with all these kind of fables about them. So, yeah, those guys are wicked. I wish they were here. See you. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Next, we had Hannah at our table. Again, crazy lovely. And it was really interesting to hear what she said about Eleanor. She said that, you know, she really sees her as a survivor, and that she was just like, yeah, you know what? Doesn't bother me at all that Eleanor's not likable, because she's like, nobody asked the men to be likable. And
that's a good call.
I know. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, Hannah, more power to you, lady.
Yeah.
And she said that she talked about one of the things I wanted to bring up was about how different her costuming is in season 3. And she talked about that she had that in season 1 and 2, she was like one person. And in season 3, she had to kind of like become a chameleon and be a different person to survive. Like that was really her main focus. Is Eleanor is a survivor. Like she had been a dreamer, but really deep down her main thing was that she's scrappy and she's a survivor. And so she talked about how
that's awesome.
Yeah, how about wearing the corsets and having to play the role of, you know, a part of civilization, and as a lady, which just was, you know, just grated against every fiber of Eleanor's being. And I really loved that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah, that's great. That's cool.
And she said that, you know, there wasn't documentation she could find. The women all seem to very much have tried to research. Clara also talked about research for Anne Bonny. And she said that, you know, there wasn't documentation of women in Nassau, but she was like, but there were women in Nassau. And so what she did was she researched women of that time in London who were running businesses and taverns and things like that.
Oh, smart.
Yeah. And I really liked that. And then, okay, super spoiler alert, double spoiler alert. Anyone who went here and really doesn't want to get spoiled, now I'm going to talk about the thing. She said that, she's going to say it better than me, but the part that really resonated with me was that she said that killing Vane was like killing a part of herself. And that is actually when I also chimed in a little bit. I don't know if people will be able to hear, like, know which is my voice in there, but she did say something about, she was comparing Vane to that bad boyfriend that you always come back to. And I said something like, are you describing Vane for Eleanor or Eleanor for Vane? And then she was like, yeah, I guess it was kind of both of them for each other.
Yeah, definitely. That went both ways.
So that was kind of adorable too.
It's just like so lovely to be here. I see her as a survivor, as someone who in many ways does exactly what other characters in the show do, but because she's female, and because quite often she does things that if she were male she would probably be lauded for that kind of behaviour. So for me it's like so refreshing to be able to play a female character that doesn't have to be likeable. Like, why does she need to be likeable? Like, no one else does. You know what I mean? She has to survive, and she does the things that ensure her survival. But she also has this kind of bigger vision for the island, and that's what motivates her in early stages of series 1 and 2. But then after she gets arrested, there's like a whole kind of rebirth for her. She comes back and she still has to use the same tactics, but just in a different body in a way. Like, she changes, she becomes a society lady, you know. And when I heard that that's what was going to happen to her, I was like, she's not a lady. What are you talking about? Why is she going to be wearing corsets? Like, she's like this badass. Like, that's where she's grown up. That's who she is. And so for me, it was kind of a big challenge to accept that she has this way of being a comedian, and finding her methods have to change, you know, in relation to her surroundings and her situation. So yeah, I mean, it's very fun playing a character that people love to hate. It is. So yeah. I found it very tough to find any kind of documents that would really like relate to specifically the role of the fence, specifically the role. The only documents I did find related to women in London who would be running taverns and who would be controlling fence operations in London. So I really took some of those influences and fed that into Eleanor. Because the reality is, when you think about it, she would have had to run a bit. There would have been women running the business, because the majority of men would have been off like fighting prizes. So there is an element of the fact that these women, these roles have kind of been written out of history. So I kind of grabbed onto it thinking, oh, this is an amazing opportunity to bring to light this section of history. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough, and I think you're always going to be open to that criticism of like, women wouldn't have done this, and she would have died in a second. Like, there's no way. The reality is, women were on the island. Women did survive, and how did they survive? By being badass most of the time. I mean, how else would you survive? So yeah.
And so after season 3 ended, there was this huge change for her, especially with Dane, and ultimately her witnessing him being hanged in that last scene when she kind of sees his body hanging there, and it's kind of the look on her face is just like so sad, and it's just like these mixed emotions. What are your feelings going forward? How does that influence her, and what are your feelings about season 4 now that you've gone into it, and are you satisfied with where the story's gone?
Yeah, I mean, I think for, as an actor, like, to have that kind of trauma, to have that kind of moment of a decision that just haunts you and makes you feel guilty, like, that is an incredible thing to play. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. And I think, like, that scene for me was so incredibly moving, because in so many ways it's like part of herself dying as well. It was a moment of self-mutilation in a way, because she just kind of was like, I can't keep going back to this person. He's my Achilles heel. He's gonna ruin my vision of what I have for this island. And you know, I think, yeah, it's like that bad college boyfriend that you keep going back to, but you really shouldn't. You know you shouldn't, but you just can't help yourself. So you know, she's always subjugated her own desires and needs.
You're saying that's Eleanor's experience, but that was
yeah, that's Eleanor. That's Eleanor. That's totally
Eleanor.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. Totally. So yeah, I mean, the two of them, yeah, they're as bad as each other. But like, yeah, I think that it was a very clever piece of writing to create that fan reaction, to create, you know, he's such a loved character, and you know, working with Zach, like, it's magical, like, because he brings so much life to these scenes and so much it's more than life. It's color. It's everything that he energy and like. So I really missed working with him in season 4. That's the truth. And yeah, I think it was appropriate. So yeah, that was great.
Now, I was just going to bring up some of the highlights for me of the panel.
That sounds great. Yeah.
And then we'll just play the whole panel, and that'll be the end of our episode.
I'm so excited to hear it.
So, and just so you know, you'll be able, I think, to recognize the voices, but I'll just say the first 3 people you hear talking are in this order: Jonathan Steinberg, Robert Levine, and Dan Schatz. And those are the writer, producer, showrunner people. And then Tom is the person with the English accent. Luke is the guy with the Australian accent. Jessica's the person with the North American accent.
Uh-huh.
Hannah and Clara sound a lot like themselves. Well, Hannah in particular.
Okay.
Hannah sounds like Eleanor. So Clara's the person who doesn't quite sound like Anne. But yeah.
Okay.
So that's how you'll know who's who. Robert Levine said, similar to what Tom had said, but I really liked how he said it too. He said that season 4 takes the story up to Treasure Island, but not exactly to Treasure Island. And so he said that, that at the end, they made sure to kind of close out everyone's arcs, give everyone a satisfying story. And I think Jonathan Steinberg actually said that part. But what I liked about what Robert Levine said was that he said that they take the story up to Treasure Island in a way that you could open the book and make sense of where they left the characters to where they start in Treasure Island. And at the same time, experience Treasure Island in a new way, because it would be like you had all these hidden meanings that we all share now from Black Sails that we could take into a reading of Treasure Island, and it'll just add an extra layer to it for all of us. I thought that was really lovely.
That is really lovely.
I know. Let's see what other one said about season 4 as a whole. Luke was very excited to also about amazing arcs, and then he said to do cool crazy shit like he gets a sword. That's what Luke had to say. Jessica was very excited to ride a horse. It seems she had been asking for that all of the 3 seasons, so that's something. Clara talked about Anne getting her power back. Yeah. So Luke also talked about Silver, as we know, didn't start out this whole story as a joiner, and that this world of pirates offered him all sorts of stuff, even ones we're not aware of yet, that he didn't even know he wanted, but that become important to him. I love that. Yeah, I really love that. I felt like, that resonates a lot, especially where we happen to be in Fathoms Deep, where we just see the beginning of him,
the beginning,
right, being part of the crew. So that was awesome. I also did not write down the name of the moderator, so I apologize, everyone. I'm sure that's on Twitter or
that's all right.
Wherever you find those things. But there was a funny moment. I couldn't see it, but he held up what you're going to hear when he says something to Tom and everyone starts laughing is he's holding up some sort of magazine with a half naked Tom on the front, which again, I didn't see it,
really?
But I understood from the conversation. So that was hilarious. And Dan Schatz and Tom Hopper kind of told that story together. I guess that was a photo shoot during season 1. So it's amazing how long it took to get on there.
Tom.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said poor Tom. But anyway,
because you just you care a lot about Billy. You just want to take care of him, and now you want to take care of Tom.
Yeah.
It seems it's okay.
That's right.
It's all right. So they were telling the story that I guess while he was posing shirtless on a ship for this
shirtless on a ship, I have no thoughts in my brain right now at all. Go ahead.
Dan Schatz was taking...
Wait, topless tall ships. Got
yes,
it.
Topless.
Nailed it.
So I guess Dan was taking some press people or somebody around, and so they all just ended up, he said, he was like, yep, we got there, and nobody was listening to me anymore. So that was adorable.
Of course not. Yeah, that is adorable.
Very
how
cute.
Funny.
And then Tom talks about how he and Zach had a most shirtless contest going on. He thinks Zach won.
Oh, okay. All right. I like this.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty great. So Tom and Luke together kind of, Tom started this and Luke joined in. This is a little bit later, talked about just almost like the shifting sands of the Billy Silver Flint relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, my terminology, he didn't say shifting sands, but I'm just, I always bring it back to Fathoms Deep. Yeah, it would have been neat, but
course.
Whatever. And so he was talking about how, Billy believed in Flint, but then Billy kind of had a collision with Silver, and how that's a little bit, like how that's going to play out a little bit in season 4, which is really going to be fascinating. And then Luke said he called Flint a rock star.
That works.
And he
that
said,
totally works.
Tom had said how Billy was like thinking that Silver was kind of on his side at the end of season 3 against Flint, but he had been in Nassau while Silver and Flint were kind of finding a common language in a way. And so Luke said, and when the coolest rock star wants to be your friend, it doesn't matter what you said about him before. And then he called him the coolest rock star in Pirate Town.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yes,
I love it.
I know. Now I just kind of wish that they did outtakes for this show because, I mean, these people are really funny.
Yeah.
It would have.
wow.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Yes, Luke Arnold is hilarious. I enjoyed him very much. Okay, so then Clara said for season 4 that she is. Again, they're all really hilarious. She said Anne is cooler and has a plan. She's less murderous, not just stabby.
Not just stabby. I get that, though. Oh, that's funny.
And then one of my the only time you hear me laugh in the recording of the panel is this next thing. Sorry, Outlander people. When they're talking, you saw this on Twitter. Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, Lauren tweeted about this. Talking about leaving South Africa, Luke said, we set fire to one of the ships. And just so everyone knows, there was actually a fire. Like that was, we don't know how it happened, but there was actually a fire. And then somebody said, wait, the moderator said, wait, you set that fire? And he said, I wasn't going to let those Outlander guys take it. I love that so much. I love that very much.
Awesome.
Yes.
How fun.
I know. And then Tom talks about how, it was a really sweet, and I'm going to let him say most of it. Like, he just said a really sweet thing about how, this was, for many of them, felt like this was the best thing they had ever made, and how they understood that. And so they all felt like they needed to do the best work, and that he felt like he got to, that he was honored, and also it was amazing for him to see what he did with, what he himself did with that, and watching his fellow actors like just pull out such amazing performances. And we haven't seen season 4 yet. I'm dying to see season 4.
So
but
excited. I know.
But yeah, I mean, we know this already just with the 3 seasons. It's really incredible. And then Jonathan Steinberg said something else that I really loved. Somebody had asked about how much they used history, and he talked about that a little bit. But then the thing I really loved that he said these actors grow into their characters and vice versa. And then he said that affected their writing process and the performance process.
Oh.
And he said these characters would not exist without these people.
Oh, wow.
I know. Right?
That's really special.
I know.
Yeah, that's really a special thing.
I know. It was really, really a beautiful thing to hear him say. And,
wow.
Yeah. And it was just, they had talked a little bit about collaboration, but it was just amazing. Like this, especially for me, after a day of like managing to hang out with them a little bit, like this idea that the people who wrote this show, really, there was this amazing symbiosis between them and the actors in the creation of these characters, and that was a process. And that's just a neat thing to know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful.
And then somebody asked if someday, and I did, I can say that I asked this in the green room in the beginning since somebody officially asked it, and it's on the fan. I did. I asked Luke, I was like, oh, you cut your hair. This means no Treasure Island. And then I asked Jonathan Steinberg, please do Treasure Island someday. Nobody said anything to me. I mean, it's not happening now. That's not what they're doing right now. I was hoping.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're not doing that. Somebody did ask the panel, if 10 to 15 years from now, you would do Treasure Island. And this is not an official thing, but Dan Schatz did say, he said this group of people is our family, and it just wouldn't be a bad thing if we had a family reunion 15 years from now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of Firefly that had that same idea. Like, they all were so proud of that project, and they loved the work so much, it became such a family. And coming back to do the movie, and still they all say they'd drop everything and do it again if it ever came around. So, yeah, which we'll have another podcast on that. Mighty Fine Shindig is coming up. So,
yay.
Just a couple weeks out now.
I'm going to be a listener to that one. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So who knows? I did tell the showrunners that, pretty much, guys, do something soon.
Yeah, do something else.
And we'll podcast about it.
We love you. It's a magic combination. Please.
So sorry, Liz. I already committed for you as well. We will podcast about whatever they do.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I'm in.
All right. Awesome. Yay. That's confirmed now. Okay. I have a few more lovely things from the thing that you're about to listen to, but one of them is kind of funny. So Jessica, I did just tweet at her when I re-listened to this. She said that she found playing Max intimidating because Max is super cool and she called herself super dorky. And I just love the idea of her being intimidated by her own character.
Yes.
And then Tom compared himself to Pokemon evolving because Billy's changing so much. So, first of all, now we know that Tom Hopper really likes Pokemon. And
oh man.
And also the hilarious thing is that I actually did tweet about it. I didn't tweet much about the panel. I retweeted Lauren's tweet so everyone can find Lauren's awesome tweets in our feed or hers. But the hilarious thing is I did tweet about that because I was so amused, but I wrote Pokemon wrong. I wrote it as Pokemon. And there's some...
Pokemon. Oh, man, Daphne, that's okay. You heard me on Odd Man Out. I said Pokemon. We're fine.
True. That's so true. No. But you haven't heard the best part of this yet. There's some bot on Twitter that I guess every time someone tweets Pokemon instead of Pokemon... tweets at them. No, you have to hear what it says. It says, it's mon, not man. They're monsters, not men.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, but that's crazy. How crazy is that some bot just randomly did the weirdest crossover quote possible about monsters and men.
Oh my gosh. That's
I know,
awesome.
that cracked me up.
Yep.
That was me about to get on the train today. I was just like, that's too weird. That is so funny. So the last thing I wanted to bring up was that that I did tweet this to you, and I am sending it to you with your canvas, is that they were giving out samples of the first few pages of Rackham's Razor, which is a graphic novel that started as a script that Toby Schmitz wrote about the backstory for Jack and Anne. And they couldn't get it.
Smart guy.
Oh my God, I know. They said that they couldn't figure out a way to get it into the show, so they decided to do a graphic novel, and that is going to come out before season 4. And yeah, it was adorable. I got to see all the actors when they saw it for the first time when we went to the staging area before the autographs.
Oh,
they just had a pile of them, and I had basically harassed the people at the Stars booth to give me one for each of us. But then they were like a pile of them, and they were like all like, "Hey, do you want one?" I was like, "Yeah, I already got that." But yeah, it was so cute.
Funny.
So the picture of me with the actresses was like basically me sitting with them while they were like looking at it for the first time, and it was really adorable.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. So yeah, I think I'm sure there's stuff I'm forgetting. Maybe I'll tell more stories later on. But basically, it was great. And I wish everyone could have been there with me. And so I'm telling the story because that's the best I can do.
That's awesome. No, thank you for sharing the experience with us. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making me be a podcaster because look where it's gotten me.
Proper podcaster.
I am a proper podcaster now. I am.
Wow.
Things that I took from this that I thought were just so lovely for us and for our listeners is, one, they're lovely people, so nice and generous and fun. And that, I didn't tell. There was one thing, I did forget one thing. So when I was talking to Jonathan Steinberg, he did actually say that that there are moments where he'll listen to something we said, that's something in his own writing that he hadn't really thought about, but then he'll listen to what we're saying and go, that works.
That's so cool. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I didn't want to be like, dude, that was pretty much the biggest compliment you could give me ever. But, I guess now I did. I guess now I said that on the podcast. So in a way I did say it to him. Maybe he'll listen to this.
That's awesome.
It was a very fun day. So yeah, that's it. All right. Well, enjoy the panel recording, everyone. I definitely enjoyed being there, and this is the closest I could get you all to it. But it's a great conversation. I think you'll really enjoy it.
It felt like we started to see an ending that we really liked, and those aren't easy to find. So when we found it, we realized whether we liked it or not, this was probably going to be the end of this trip. So we're sad to see it go. And I think Star's sad to see it go, and we're all sad to see it go. But we're really proud of how it went out. And I think it's going to be a hell of a season.
Did it influence the writing at all? Knowing that you did have an end point, where maybe you always did over these years, but you go season after season, but was this a little different knowing you would be wrapping it up?
Yeah, I think this has always been the tragedy of Captain Flint and the rise of Long John Silver. And I think knowing that we're getting closer to it became a real challenge about how you do that justice. How you do justice to a book that is so much bigger than anything we're going to do on the show, but that we need to find a way to make the show stand up to somehow.
It also, I think, presented an opportunity for us to really do a cataloging of the show and make sure that we weren't leaving any loose ends hanging out there. So there's some, I think, wonderful payoffs to stories that launched long before Season 3, even Season 2, Season 1. So you can really feel like by the end you got told a complete story, and you can open Treasure Island, and it'll both make sense but also have new sort of hidden meanings to it. So we did our best to deliver on that promise. So hopefully you'll be satisfied.
I think we always want to up our game every season, build on how big the set pieces are, what we're able to achieve, and I think with what you're going to see for Season 4, you guys are going to feel it.
For the cast, even maybe knowing what your character's journey might be throughout of it, how was it to finally dive into a lot of these big scenes that I'm sure are going to be a part of Season 4? We'll start with Hannah.
It was mind-blowing. Just to know that your character is going to have this complete arc, and that the fans are going to be able to see elements of your character's motivation that maybe was established in Season 1 come to life, and it explains so much. So for me, the culmination of so much tension, and especially after losing Vane, I think there is so much emotion there, and as an actor, you just feel incredibly blessed to have that kind of writing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to walk away from a job like this, and I think we all felt the same, where we went, there's nothing more I would have wanted to do on this show. I think every character got to feel the complete end of their arc. We got to do all the cool, crazy shit that I don't think I saw until Season 4, but in that, any action stuff that I didn't have at the beginning, we just leave it all on the table by the end of season 4. So it's really satisfying to walk away feeling like we did everything we ever could have wanted with this crazy pirate show.
Yes, I think you guys are going to be really happy. I mean, it's like John said, the story felt like it was, for you guys, it was time for it to come to an end. And all I really cared about in every season, I was like, can I ride a horse? Can I ride a horse? Can I ride a horse in this season? Oh, okay. Can I ride a horse in this season? That season's very good to ride a horse. So. I'm fine now. We can ride a horse.
Tom, how about you with Billy?
Yeah, I mean, Billy's going to go on a bit of a journey this season, so and he's obviously taking a big leap in kind of a leadership role, I suppose, now as well. So what's great as well now is seeing all these things that he's gone through the past 3 seasons, all the different things that have affected him. They're all starting to take their toll, I think now, and it was really fun to play for him to have all those elements. And see how the challenges of those sort of things as an actor is a gift, so it's great to have those. And also I got to see what he looks like with a beard.
Clara, how about you?
Yeah, I just think, she's Polly's got her power back. She's gone through some difficult stages throughout the seasons, and yeah, we're just going to see that complete arc, and I'm very satisfied with how the story's going.
Well, he did not make it live out of season 3, but can we get a round of applause for Zach McGowan as Charles? How much is the memory of Charles Vane, or just any vengeance about his death? How has that played into these new episodes?
A lot. I think we're pretty hard on story, and I think we're pretty hard on decisions that are that big. And I don't think we would ever want to do anything like that unless it created more story afterwards than came before it. I think both Charles Vane as a character and Zach as a part of his family, it was a big deal to say goodbye to him. It sucked. And we wanted it to feel like it sucked, and that for season 4 it was about that, for everyone trying to come to terms with the idea that the one guy you thought would never leave this world or leave this story is mortal too. And so, it's everyone has a point of view into that season, and hopefully they all amount to a send-off that's worthy of the character.
Let's just go down the line for all the characters we're going to see. Hannah, where do we see Eleanor in the new season? Where do we pick up?
Well, she's faced with incredible danger because of her actions, and what she did definitely comes back to haunt her. And she's more than ever, she's questioning who she is, why she's there, why she's doing what she's doing, and I think it's an amazing opportunity to have a show that can kind of pull together these characters, and you get this explanation of who they are and what you've been watching for 3 seasons. And it's not the same shooting that show without Zach McGowan. That's the truth. Our weekend parties are definitely not the same as well. So, I mean, it is an epic season, and I know you guys will really be happy with how everything is tied up.
Yeah, and then for Silver, I think from the guy who said he was never a joiner and was never a part of anything, we kind of begin season 4 and he's at the centre of this war with really strong relationships with the men around him. He's got friendships and relationships and all these connections now, which puts a lot more weight on his shoulders than he ever had before. And obviously the legend of Long John Silver is being put out by someone else. And so he started to hear about that and kind of decided he was going to take on that mantle. And it's just some crazy stuff.
Well, just judging from the trailer, it does look like a big season for Silver. How is it playing him this season, for the 4th season, than maybe the 1st season? He's changed a lot.
I feel like every season has been different. And it's amazing when you get the writers and producers who are willing to throw something at you that I have no idea I can do. They've got no idea. And just go like, yeah, he's just this guy now. And he's someone completely different. I had no idea. Doing it, you have no idea where it's going to work. You get used to playing a character a certain way, and now it's just someone else entirely. But from what I've seen of season 4, I couldn't be more proud of finishing that John Silver story that we started 4 years ago.
Well, it looks like he's getting some loving from what I saw in the trailer. What do you say to that?
Hey, good loving.
Yeah, I don't especially after losing, there are a lot of things that Silver probably never thought he'd find in this pirate world. Yeah, he thought he was going to be there for 2 weeks, get some gold and leave. And between the friendships and the romance and the respect of people around him, he had to trade a leg for it, but he's definitely found a lot of things in this world that I don't think he was expecting.
Jessica, I've talked to you probably from the start of the show about Max, and Max has always wanted power, she had power. Now we're at a place where maybe some of that power is taken from her. Can you talk about that in the new season?
Yeah, I mean, she's an incredibly determined character. I think season 4 is a really character-defining season for her. We talk a lot about whether the characters, are you a good character, you're an evil character, and I think we all kind of balance somewhere in between. But I think at least for her in season 4, you get kind of an idea of who she is, who she really is for the first time.
Well, just because I personally want to know what's the interaction between Max and Eleanor, because there's some nice history there. Maybe it's not all nice.
I have a lot to talk about that.
I think it is safe to say that their season 1 relationship plays a role this season.
What?
Necessarily that. Everyone settled that.
He just told you nothing, but he made you feel like you did.
You guys are masters at that. I haven't talked to you in the last 4 years. Well, Tom, before we talk about Billy, I do have to ask you about one very important thing. What's up with this? I have a supplier. But, and I might have been on set when you were shooting some of this. I can't remember if it was this or something else, but obviously you're taking care of yourself, and I don't even have a question in there. I just had to show.
Let me just tell a quick story. While Tom was shooting that on the ships, I was giving a tour to all the press that were there, and no one was listening to me.
True.
I felt so exposed. I was stood there with no top on. All these people with cameras were looking at me. And Dan's there going, To be honest, that was the first season of Black Sails.
That was the end. Hang on, the one that you're talking about was the muscle and fitness.
I just mean you didn't wear a shirt in the first season. It's true, yeah. Me and McGowan had some kind of competition about who had their shirts up more. I think McGowan won though, right? I won? Definitely, surely.
You catch up in season 4, maybe. But we're talking about Billy because a lot like Silver, he's changed a lot since we first met him, and from what I've seen in the trailer, it looks like a lot's going to change moving forward.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting when you look at pictures of me and Luke from season 1. We look like fresh-faced young boys, and I think when you look at that trailer, you can see the journeys that we've all gone on, how the show has aged us as actors and as characters. It's a massive journey he's been on, and he's gone through a lot. Like I was saying before, these changes in season 4 are massively character defining. I was talking to someone earlier and saying all they want to do is kind of give Billy a hug. He seems to always beat it up and stuff, and I was like, that's kind of true, I suppose. But the thing is, he's always trying to do what he feels is right for the men around him. He's so aggressively protective of the men around him and what he feels is right. And now he's in this kind of leadership role. Sometimes those decisions he makes make him bite on the backside.
Well, for both for Billy and for Silver, how do they feel about Flint at this point? It's always been very kind of contentious, but they've always kind of followed Flint. It looks like maybe they're going to finally not follow him. Is that what we're going to see?
Something I can obviously have to wait and see. The relationship between Billy and Silver, remember in season 3, they came to a point where they sort of were on the same page when it came to Flint,
But I think what Billy doesn't see is this kind of behind-the-scenes relationship that Silver is gaining with Flint. While Billy's off in Nassau, sort of leading resistance, he, in his head, is thinking that Silver still has this same kind of mind frame. And then when Silver comes back and he's built this legend for Silver, this kind of persona for Silver, he's hoping that Silver and him will be able to take that on together, and maybe push Flint to the side. And that's going to be a test for all three of their relationships, I think.
Luke, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Luke, can you talk about that a little bit as far as where Silver's feelings are for Flint?
Yeah, I think genuinely by the end of season 3, they've got a real mutual respect and friendship there, and it definitely does. I mean, it is one of the big central themes of the 4th season. Silver rocked up, it was just the thorn in Flint's side, and it's almost like as everyone got knocked off from the show, Silver kind of slipped into that position, first with Gates and then Miranda. So by the end of season 3, even though Silver always said he doesn't believe in Flint and he'd never buy into it, but they're really, Flint's the rock star, and I think by the end of season 3, Silver's kind of at that point where it's hard, when the coolest rock star wants to be your friend, no matter what you said about him before, you kind of get something and go, yeah, I'm going to be buddies with the coolest rock star in Pirate Town. But then he's got a real genuine friendship with Billy as well, so when there is that falling out, it is, for a guy who never really had any friends, suddenly to kind of have to, who's he going to side with is a real big pressure on him, and a big part of the first part of season 4.
Clara, I have to say we've seen Anne Bonny totally unhinged early on, to kind of coming into her own in a lot of different ways. What do we see in season 4 and with Rackham as well?
I think for once she's actually keeping her cool, because she has to be in some way the glue to hold the boys together after Bane's death. She's going to have to not lose herself and be so volatile as she usually is.
Kick a lot of ass.
Yeah, exactly. In a less crazy way, a little bit more cool, something less murderous and more. She's got a plan, it's for a reason. Not just going around stabbing. It's a bit awkward with everybody in the brothel and it's all there.
At this point, Clara, how's your relationship with your hat? How do you feel about it?
It's really hard not to have it on my head now. I feel really exposed.
A few minutes, we're going to get some audience questions, so if anybody wants to line up at the mics, feel free, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. All right, Toby Stevens is not here today, but you guys, the writers, can you talk about Flint's journey in this? Because it sounds like with Billy and Silver's stories, there's some drama.
I think it's a massive challenge when you start this, looking at Captain Flint as this ghost within the book that has no real shape and no real defined ending to earn that. And I think season 4 is about this relationship with John Silver as being a bit of a summation of all of the other relationships he's had so far, while still keeping them alive. I think he is a guy who is on the verge of changing the world in a meaningful way, and is so close, and that felt compelling, and it felt like it was worthy of what piracy was about and what these characters that we've gotten to know are about. And obviously he did not change the world. So, it's how do you tell that tragedy, how do you make it compelling? And Toby is a walking masterclass in performance. It's, for me, and I think for everybody, just watching him work is amazing. So the stuff he did this season it's astounding.
I love the flashbacks. You guys did a lot of in season 2, and then season 3 you were seeing visions of Mrs. Barlow or dreams. Is that still play into some of what we'll see with him, just to kind of still dig under the layer of who this guy is?
And everything's in play for the character. I think those narrative devices were useful because he didn't have a relationship in the present where we could really access some of those emotions. And season 4 is significantly different in the sense that he now has that person in John Silver. So really their relationship becomes the focus throughout. They're both recognizing that they have something special between them that a lot of people are also relying on, and so they're sort of determined to make sure that no one sees any daylight between them, and that becomes increasingly more difficult as the stakes ratchet up, and it figures into every scene they're in, right? That one last one.
I'm going to ask the actors, because I've been to set a couple times, well, I've been to set once, but you guys have spent many years there now. How did it feel to kind of wrap things up and maybe say goodbye to South Africa for a while?
We set fire to one of the ships. Is that you? Yeah. I wasn't going to let those Outlander guys take it. It's the hardest. It's not going to hit us till November. For the last 4 years in November, we all go down with this family of amazing people and get to live in our little pirate oasis for a while. And I don't think it's really going to hit us till November, when we don't get on that plane that time and don't get to go back and have that next adventure. But so it's going to be a long, slow party process.
Hannah, how about you? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's just been such an incredible experience, a very formative experience for me personally, and we have just kind of bonded as an amazing group of people, and for me, I'm kind of petrified that I'll never get to set on a set. It's just so amazing. So yeah, from day one it never was normal. From day one we were kind of just blown away by this world, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. So we never for a moment took it for granted. That's for sure.
Jessica, will you go back and get on a horse and ride the beaches again?
Yes, oh my God, as much as possible. Maybe not as far away as Cape Town, as wonderful as it is. Yeah, I think, I've certainly felt a sense of identity, on a personal level doing the show for so many years. So when you don't have that anymore, there's a bit of a gap where you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? And that feeling of will I ever work again? So it's really hard, but it's also, I just feel so privileged to have been on the show, a tremendous amount of pride about it, and lucky, just really lucky. It's a show that's, in a time when we're kind of living in the golden age of television, as everyone is repeating and repeating and repeating, how lucky are we to have been on a show that I really believe from the bottom of my heart is that is part of that goldenness. So it's really sad. Really sad.
It's funny what Hannah said then, when we first arrived in Cape Town, we all kind of got blown away by the sets there, and we were walking up to the ships and walking through this pirate town's existing kind of world. I think the thing is, I'm speaking on behalf of myself here, but I'm sure we all felt it, but I felt like a massive responsibility to make this thing the best thing that any of us had ever done. And I feel that everyone, as a part of it, gave everything of themselves, from the physical training we went through to get ready physically for the thing, but also emotionally. I've seen actors on the show just give incredible performances, and I feel so privileged to have been in certain scenes with these guys and gone through just amazing times in my life, and I leave this show thinking that was just one of the best chapters of my life so far, and I have a lot to thank, these guys for that, and so I leave it with a real kind of warmth in my heart about the whole thing, it's just been great, it really has.
I feel the same. I'm just thinking of missing these nutters. They're a really big dysfunctional family from the cast and the crew, and it's an experience we'll never have anything similar to again. So, yeah. It's sad.
Well, let's do some audience questions. Go ahead. What's your question?
I get into the show from a historical context because my history thesis was on pirate gender, sex, and sexuality with a focus on Embody, Mary Reed, and Calico Jack. I'm just really curious went into the show or into your characters, or was it more of just like, let's just entertain the people?
Research, yes. Always good. I think we felt a bit of a responsibility to be true to some sense of who these people were, to plant some flags around their identity that felt like they were core elements to it that we didn't want to mess with. But they also are characters that exist in a world that didn't really exist because of this book. And so it's always a balancing act in terms of taking a person whose identity is written into a historical record that is spotty and compromised and for a lot of good reasons, and trying to find truth in that. So that was the challenge.
I think we just also wanted to make everything real. I think to capture that time period is a bit of a legacy, I think, of the show, of what we were able to do here. And Stars was amazing about pushing us to show that and make it feel real, and that's what our dream was with the story, and they helped facilitate that with the production model of being able to achieve that reality. And I think that's where, both from a character standpoint, production model, all of it is where I think the show hopefully shines.
I think it's also important to, a thing we discovered but also embraced is that these actors grow into their characters and vice versa. And part of that is a writing process of knowing them and being able to infuse pieces of it. Part of it, I would have to imagine, is a performance process. But these characters would not exist without these people. They just wouldn't be whole, and they wouldn't be the characters that you guys have come to care about. So, big part of it.
I suppose just to add to that, I mean, this experience has always been something very collaborative, you guys as writers and creators, because we do our own research and we try and find out as much as we can. But there's, we have this amazing resource which is you guys. And they've worked with us, and any ideas we have and any bits of information we come across, we can always give back to them, which is amazing. And it's really hard to research women in this time period, so well done. Every time you try and find information about women, you kind of realise that they got written out a lot of the time. So, I mean, I don't know how Clara feels about it, but for me, I definitely felt it was hard to access. But then when you look at, maybe letter writing between women, you get little snippets of what their emotional life was like. And I think the way we've dealt with sexuality is incredibly interesting and reflects some of the things that you find in those letters.
Yeah, totally. You're right. There's not that much information for the women that you can get. Obviously, there's snippets about Bonnie, but we're not sure of the actual facts, So the writers have certainly done their best in finding out and telling the story as best they can of what we know about Bonnie, and the rest, which I was very grateful for, is a bit of the artistic license to explore the character, which is a lot of fun as well.
Thank you. Next question.
Hey guys, I just want to say that I think out of the women on stage, you guys most of the time outdid the men. There were times that everybody slayed the shit out of me. Watching the characters from season 1 till now, it changed incredible with the acting. Way better than Outlander. To see the series actors, so they're just
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next question.
You guys are fantastic. I just tell everybody to watch this show. It kind of breaks my heart for it to end, so any chance 15, 20 years down the road to come back to Treasure Island?
Oh, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part, for us personally, is we are a family, and we love. I mean, what we put these guys through, and they come back for it every year, is their dream. And so that's the hardest part about it ending, is breaking up the family. So yeah, 15 years, let's get the family back together.
Thank you. Next question.
So I just want to say thank you for keeping me
me on the edge of my seat these past 3-4 years. Basically, with all of these characters, they've gone through such changes, you know, with John and losing his leg and everyone making these decisions, Simon going through a rebirth with everything. What was it like crafting that? And then for the actors, what was it like kind of enduring those experiences of changing what you were originally from season 1?
I mean, for me personally, like it's been on kind of 360. And there were points where I was like, I mean, growing with a character over 4 years, it's like growing personally. You never know what's going to happen to that character. So, kind of like in life, you just have to accept some things which are pretty shitty. Even though you want to always protect your character and you're always fighting for them. So, I think for me, you know, after season 2, after she comes back from London, there's this like incredible rebirth. And there's such a change in her. And I think when the writers told me, I was a bit like, what, she just played a corset? Like, that's not her. Like, she's like this badass. And so I was kind of quite like, no, but you have to accept that, like, this situation changes and these characters have to adapt and they have to be chameleons and that's what survival is in this world. So, yeah, it's been an incredible journey with her, for sure.
Yeah, I think there used to be that old thing of going where people were scared of being in TV, thinking that you're going to have to play the same person every episode. And for year after year, you're just going to do the same thing. And this whole new golden age of television is about telling long stories where characters develop. And I don't know if there's any other show out there that has seen it do it as well as we have, honestly. Where every single character, every season, there's someone new. And the opportunity these guys work for us, and that I think from all of us that everyone's fulfilled in such an amazing way. I love watching every new season because it is new for us too. There's all parts of the story that we haven't seen and weren't a part of, and it's great to see what all these guys do every new season, every new episode sometimes.
I found playing Max really, majority of the time, to be really intimidating because she's just really cool and super dorky. So it was just a really great challenge as an actor and a person to kind of find out who that you kind of have to find that groundedness in yourself, which is just something that I so enjoyed going to work every day because I so enjoyed having that challenge for the first time in my life as an actor. Was on this show, and it was every single day from day one all the way to the very end. And absolutely, exactly what you said, being able to play a character who just, your arcs just go, you know, for every single character is it keeps things really interesting. You know, a lot of people go, oh no, I'm going to be on a show for a long time and I'm going to be so bored, and I really don't think anyone ever felt that way on set ever. So, really, yeah, really fortunate.
Yeah, I think there's a part of the changes that what it is for me. I mean, I found that I had to trust the writing so much because in season 1, you know, you're going through things, and then obviously Billy, when he goes overboard and then gets picked up by the English, like that was like a big event. Billy saw it, and he got tortured, and it changed everything. He saw things over where he got captured, saw the English, you know, saw what was coming, saw what they were capable of. And I think that all these events for these characters, like every character has like these massive events that happen that kind of then send the character, it's almost like a Pokemon jump or something. And you become the next version of your character because some massive event has changed you and made you stronger as a character, made you more resilient, whatever it is. And yeah, I sort of think, I'm looking at Billy now, I was like, hey, now that Pokemon, right? But he's a Charizard. So yeah, like when you it's only when you look back on it actually when I sort of remember looking at Billy when I was shooting the season, looking in the mirror and going like, dude, you've like changed. I mean, like season 1, and what has changed him with these key events that has just kind of like broken him down to become like who he is in season 4. And I think every character you can see those events and you can track them back, see how they change. So yeah, it's been
I'm totally distracted. Got Toby Schmitz here on the phone.
What's it, Toby?
Kind of lost where I'm at in a way, because he's making lots of silly faces.
He's got a bottle of wine and a baby.
So, real quick plug for Mr. Schmitz, who knows his character so well that he decided to submit a short film script about when Jack Rackham met Anne Bonny, and we couldn't shoot it, but we had to share it however we could. So we made it into a comic book. It's called Rackham's Razor, written by Toby Schmitz. If you're fans of the two of them, you have to have it. These are just preview. This is just the first 10 pages, but we'll have a completed version by the time the show premieres in January, so be on the lookout for how you can obtain the copy, and then it'll also be available digitally so everyone can share it. But awesome work, my friend. Wish you were here.
I will confess, on a number of occasions I was tempted to steal from that script. That's how good it is. So
We've got time for maybe another question. Go ahead.
You talked a little bit about this earlier, but could you tell us more about the choice to tie literature into real history and choosing to make things more historically accurate versus more showy, like certain mainstream prior things we've seen in the past?
I think the reason for making the show, before it was a show or even an idea, was to make these people real. To take characters that existed in Neverland and find a way to make them human beings. Some of that was an exercise in figuring out how they would understand themselves, which I think is what led to these stories about people's sexual awakenings and people's political awakenings and relationships developing in that way. And some of it's about history. These people existed at a time and a place that's relevant to who they are, in a moment in which the new world was really kind of new, and it's a frontier story. And I don't think you can do that with ghosts. You sort of have to be honest about the world they lived in. So that's been the challenge from day one. Hopefully we get close.
Okay, so thanks everyone so much for joining us this week. Until next week, from Common Room Radio, I am Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
Fathoms Deep is a Common Room Radio production. For more information and access to other programs, please visit us at commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can be made to patreon.com/commonroomradio. Join the conversation by using the hashtag FathomsDeep and follow us on Twitter at BlackSalesCast. We ask that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and please avoid spoilers. If you have more to say, we want to hear it in all its spoiler glory. Email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com with Fathoms Deep in the subject line. Thanks for listening.